Core Gaming fighting games, right? Oh, there you go. Yeah, I want to take like a quick fucking second to react to this video. So Core Gaming is like a very good like a journalist site for everything about a very proliferate fighting game news YouTube channel, and they released like a new video called "The Miracle of Pakistani Tekken." Right, and I'm like, I don't usually do like these like types of videos unless it like really like interests me to do a video on them, but of course, me being like, Islamic Bangladeshi, I'm not like Pakistani. My dad is more Pakistani more than anything. But I've always like wondered like how did like Pakistan grew to be such like a powerful Tekken like force, right? And now we have like mainstays in like in the Tekken scene with our first and foremost ever favorite Pakistani boy Arslan Ash like gaining like spotlight from like a third world like country, right? Like you gotta right? We gotta like understand, right? Pakistan, I've been there, right? That's kind of like my region. You're not exactly the most advanced of civilizations, right? I mean, there's pollution, there's corruption, there's a lot of like overcrowding, there's a lot of like just poorness upon like poorness, right? And of course, also with like brown culture, right? Not a lot of like brown people ever really like get into like the gaming like crowd, right? Like most of them just like most of us, really go for like the doctor or the engineering stuff, right? But like, man, video gaming or especially like Tekken, right? Of all like fighting games, like a 3D heavy footsie based fighting game, right? I've always wondered how they grew to be such like a powerful like community, and I do wanna check this out. Just for like just for me being curious, right?
In 2019, Pakistan surprised everyone when they proved they had some of the best Tekken players in the world.
Right.
Arslan Ash won both Evos that year, earning himself a Red Bull sponsorship. Atif Butt and Awais Honey would get first and second place respectively at Tokyo Tekken Masters, and Bilal would win the ultra-stacked LCQ event at the TWT Finals. The running joke was that getting past visa issues was harder than winning the tournament itself. The Pakistani passport ranked the 4th lowest for visiting other countries, which is why Arslan Ash famously got stuck in transit for 3 days on his way to winning EVO Japan.
Yes, there was a time when I lose all my hope and I decided to go back home.
So how does Pakistan, a country that doesn't even have official distributors for PlayStation or Xbox, get good enough to beat the best in the world?
Right?
There's no better way to find out than to actually go there, so I went to Lahore, which is the 2nd largest city and home to the best fighting gamers in the country. I was warmly greeted by the local commentators, Soul Dragger and Silver Fox, who taught me about the country
Soul Dragger and Silver Fox.
Let's go, Gerald.
Yeah.
You came in the right time. I needed this break.
The first thing to know about Lahore is that it's a center for the arts and culture of the Punjab region, an area that includes eastern Pakistan and northwest India. It's the birthplace for much of the country's filmmaking, literature, and music. So it's no surprise this is where a culture for gaming could grow as well. Lahore is precisely where you'd have a liberal arts university inviting FGC people to provide a guest lecture about Tekken and esports. There is even an open tournament held in the classroom afterwards.
Wow, really?
Now they've got multiple events, so they call it Festival. It was basically a film festival with all of the other stuff, fighting game tournaments as well, alongside all the film competition and sports competition and all that jazz. I think it was pretty sick to be summoned by a university that is basically really art focused.
But to have a culture for gaming, you
still
need to have games.
Oh wow, that's crazy. There's like a university that like caters to like all of like the liberal arts like section of Lahore like film festival. Wow, that's crazy. Cause like when you're, cause like even though I don't like know much, I'm sorry, but when you're like growing up in India, right? Oh, not growing up in India. When you grew up as like brown, whether you're Islamic, Hindu, either of the two, you're always like taught that you always go for like the engineering or like the doctor or the lawyer like degree programs, and that's what like your parents like tell you, because those are the types of jobs that will help you like earn bang for your buck, especially like if you're a doctor, because like I see a lot of brown kids like around my age go for like the doctoring program or the nursing program, because they always say like they want to like help people, which is a noble cause, but like, man, it feels like a dime a dozen. Bruh. Doctoring, engineering, or lawyering is like the common like joke or gag amongst the brown community that parents instill on kids, because they're the highest paying jobs in the world. Especially if you're like doctoring or lawyer, they could have some useful assets for like families and stuff like that, right? I'm like in the opposite. I'm like in the I always use this phrase, the Robert Frost, the road less traveled by type of analogy. Like, I don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? I don't want to be an engineer. I want to do something that like I really like, and of course, being my parents are not engineers, not doctors, they're teachers. They're they're college professors, right? And they're English professors. Like, wow, English professors for like two brown people? Like, that's crazy. Right? So I kind of like want to like aspire to be that, right? And of course, my dad was a real huge influence to follow what you like believe in, take the road less traveled by. So I went with like of course, math, right? Because I had to follow my mom's wishes, until I later found out that like it was a pain in the ass. But I followed like history, even though I should like retain some historical notes, right, from time to time. History and like computer arts, because I love to do streaming. I love to talk about video games. I love being on stage, even though I have Asperger's syndrome, right? Yeah, it's just like what I want to do is what I want to do. And for like brown people, I don't see a lot of like non-doctors, non-engineers, non-lawyers. At least that's not from what I've experienced, right? But it's just always like the same, and it's like this is like an astonishing like mind blow. Like, I never like thought like Pakistanis could like ever be like into like fighting games, let alone like Tekken, and like here we are with like Lahore Central University or some shit like that. where it's like a liberal arts like university where you could just escape, I feel, and this is my impression, escape from the pressures of like the day-to-day stuff of brown like cultures and criticisms. This is nice.
Pakistan has no official distributor for the most popular consoles, so these consoles and games are imported and sold in the gray market. But imported
in the gray
goods
market
are not cheap, especially when their prices are not adjusted for the country's purchasing power.
If you get a graphics card or a console, it's now considered a luxury item and taxed like that. So PlayStation 5 is probably like $800 here.
Wow, $800, and a lot of like their computer and a lot of like their gaming consoles are like imported, because not a lot of shit is like sold like regularly in retail. A lot of a lot of gaming stuff over in like those like I've seen in like in my Bangladesh. Like, this could be a similar sentiment. There's no official like stores, right, for gaming consoles. There's no like a GameStop. Pretty sure there might be, but like you have to like look harder. But GameStop is like here in like America, and Here, everything is just like imported from like other states, you know?
I remember if there was anybody else in my class that would own a console at the time. The price for it is so inflated. It takes a while for it to be accessible to everybody else.
These prices make gaming an extremely expensive hobby,
Oh,
but
wow.
they're a way for many Pakistani gamers to get video games for free.
Back in those days, I'm sure getting a console for a lot of people was getting it from Saudi Arabia, because a lot of Muslims go to pilgrimage every year.
Saudi Arabia is where the holiest site in Islam is located, the Mecca.
Yep.
Each year, about 1 to 2 million Muslims make a pilgrimage there. The most significant pilgrimage is called the Hajj, which is a religious duty to carry out at least once in a lifetime.
And just to like go like deeper into like Hajj for like anyone who's like curious about like, you know, the lore of Islam. Hajj is a 14-day pilgrimage, lasts for like 2 weeks, and so you have to like go to the Mecca, which is like the holiest site of like Islam, as like they said. And I forgot like there are some patterns that you have to do. There are some like customs that you have to do in like Hajj. One is like the many like people circling around like excuse me, circle around the big black house, or like the Kaaba Sharif. You have to circle around it, I think like 7 times. It's pretty much done down below, but it's also at the very top of the banisters right here. You see like people where my mouse is like hovering over. Shortest one is in here, but it's like clustered with so many people. So every time me and my mom like go to Saudi Arabia, we try not to like mix in, because people are like shoving or like pushing, you know. There's no like sense of like boundaries here, right? And in the upper, it's a lot less, but you have to do more walks, so it's more exercise. Then there's like a black stone, like called like a meteorite, that you have to like touch. It's also to like receive like blessings. It's the most holiest site. Like it's kind of like what was it? The Vatican or Jerusalem, sort of things like that, if that can be applied to like, you know, some similarities, right? I've been there for like 2 times with like Umrah with like family, but Hajj will be like a difficult one. I don't know. I don't know if I'm brave enough to do that, right? You have to like camp out in like in a tent, right? Like it's pretty freaking dangerous, right? I've heard like stories from like family that like people push and shove, right? And you have to walk like on end, and like there's no like health aid like immediately like on the spot or some shit like that, you know. It's wild, but it is a duty that a Muslim like has to do, at like, as the video says, at least once in your lifetime.
Once in a lifetime. Since Pakistan is over 96% Muslim, most people are going to make that trip.
And if you're going abroad and you're coming back, it's a custom to bring something for your, you know, especially for the kids, right? And consoles is the easiest no-brainer for any adult who doesn't even, you know, understand what it is. They were readily available and at a good price in Saudi Arabia.
Pakistan inadvertently got introduced to video gaming through a Muslim ritual.
I'm just going to
really?
pray my Maghrib prayer. It's the 4th prayer of the day. We pray when the sun goes down. It's been a long time. I haven't prayed here, so let's go. I mean, let's pray.
But the ones who still had no games at home did what everyone else in the world did: go to the arcades.
Yeah, because like that's a really good statement, because you know why? If your bum ass is poor, then what's the next site you go to? An arcade, right? A lot of like kids don't have like the luxury, right? Because, you know, of their parents' like positions at a peculiar like job or some shit like that. They just go to like an arcade, right? And get their gaming fix like there, right? Because like consoles are super expensive, right? You look at like PlayStation 5 or like what was it? What's the latest like Xbox now, guys? is it like the Series X or is it like the Series like S or something like that, you know? Those shits cost like $400 to $500. That's money to be like not taken like lightly, right? And you know, of course, I was fortunate enough because, you know, my parents like worked hard and they got me like a PS1 back in the day, so I had like my consoles there. But I still went to like arcades, right? Like if anybody grew up in the Route 440 area, Pizza Hut back then did have a Tekken 3 like arcade cabinet, and I would sometimes like vacate there whenever mom and dad were like ordering pizzas and the kids were just like bored, so there was like an arcade cabinet there. But arcade cabinets are gone. Right? They're like a dying breed now. Not a lot of places usually house arcades, right? There are some places in the world that house them, right? Galloping Ghost Arcade in Chicago is like one of them that I know. But the time for arcades is over. They're just old vintage. Right now it's more like smartphones and smart gaming, right? The need for arcades is like over. They're now like super like luxury items, right? And you could get arcades at a place called Arcade One Up, right? They usually ship out Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinets, Mortal Kombat cabinets, all that stuff, right? But they cost about like $500 to $600. All I'm saying is that it's a different like feeling of like, you know, getting like games when you're younger. If you had the money, you can definitely like own a console and play video games at your own luxurious home. But if you didn't, the only place you would go to, and also like a good hangout place, is the arcade, right? So that's like how this video is presenting, right? Because consoles in here, like as like one of the people said about like consoles, they're like $800. Can any family in Pakistan, a third world country with a lot of like pollution, a lot of like clustered people, like overpopulation, there's not a lot of equal opportunity jobs for Pakistanis, can they get like a console for their children? Absolutely not. So they go to like a local arcade to get their gaming fix.
Here we go. All right. This is the Level Up Gaming Hub, an arcade which is mostly Tekken with a couple of KOF cabs. There's a lot to soak in here, but the first thing that stood out was this wall of electricity meters in plain sight and these giant batteries on top of the cabinets.
Pakistan is a country that has historically faced a lot of power issues. There's not a lot of power to go around, which is why we often face blackouts, sometimes multiple times in a day.
This summer, my schedule was 10:15 in the morning, 4:15 in the evening, and then like 9:15 at night. So that's 3 hours of power outages that I have to adapt into my schedule. That adds to the cost of setting up a system. So if I'm buying a PS or a PC and I want to play during power outages, I have to set up a UPS system, right? An uninterruptible power supply system.
Yeah, that's so true, right? I've been there, chat. I've been there, homies. Whenever you go to like Bangladesh or like Pakistan, there's not any like convenient fucking power supplies over at those like countries. You would normally face like fucking a power outage, not even like monthly or like yearly, sometimes even like daily. And like I've experienced like a power outage in like Bangladesh, I think like a few times. It's just like how the country is, right? It's just like I can't really like explain it unless it's like, you know, by experience, right? When you like live there or when you have experienced that, then you can be able to like tell it, right? But even for me, like I can't vividly explain why the way it is, right? It's just how it is, you know, now. And so you have like these like backup generators that, you know, if your power line is like cut off, or like, you know, if there's like a disturbance, like rainy weather, sometimes like rainy weather can like impact can like impact your electricity, right? And it gets shut down. So you have like these like backup generators to help you out whenever like you're in a tight sitch, right? And so that's really awesome, right? I know like my cousins in Bangladesh, they have a generator so that in case like if their main power line like cuts out, they have like this like generator to help them with little emergency supplies of energy they need for the house, because you know now everything is technology related. Everybody has a smartphone, everybody has a smart device, right? We are reliant on like technology, right? Even though we can deny ourselves that we aren't, but like look at where we are now. Everything is going to be moving towards like, you know, like the fucking cartoony future tech shit, like with all holograms and stuff like that, or like Futurama with pipelines and like spacecrafts and, you know, shit like that.
Next thing I noticed was that these machines were not coin operated. The cabinets were clearly just running console versions of the game, so I wondered how customers paid. I wasn't ready for the answer.
That whole coin-operated system still exists in a certain way. They introduced a sort of honor system. They put
honor system.
First to 10 sets, first to 5 sets, so they became track of how many times they lost. And once everything was done, they'd report it back to the desk that this is how many games I lost, and as many games as they lost, that was the amount of coins, virtual, you know, imaginary coins that they have to pay.
Even without a winner stays on
Wow.
the
Wow. So, yeah, because like the arcades that we know of like back then, and sometimes like even now here in like in the US, they're all coin operated. You insert a quarter into the machine and you play your video game, right? But if you notice, like all of these arcade cabinets are custom made. They're not exactly like the arcade machines that you know of in like in the US or some shit like that. It's totally fucking different. You can tell like by the style and like what the button layout is like. But you excuse me. You keep a virtual banknote for yourself on how many times you lost, right? And you bring it up to the cashier. But that would be like really weird, because like what if you like lost and like you're stubborn, you just want to like run that set and you forgot, and it's kind of like a virtual like loan system if I like think about it, right? It's crazy.
a system, they still maintain the arcade competitive spirit where each game is a mini money match. For the hardcore tournament players, there's even a bring your own controller area with smaller low lag monitors. Another thing I couldn't ignore was the claw grip that many Pakistani players use to press buttons.
Ah, the claw
first time I
grip.
saw this up close was when I filmed Arslan Ash practicing in Thailand. Why do Pakistanis play like this?
Like accidentally used to press other buttons, like, yeah. So then I changed this grip and then I moved to this. Also, you know, yeah, the thing is that if you can see, then I have some kind of dead skin on here, and also here I have dead skin. So I think this is the problem with me. So when I used to play like this, I couldn't play because this skin hurts me, you know. So then I adopted this play style.
After
Yep. The thing that Arslan Ash is talking about, and what Korea Gaming is talking about with Crabclaw, is that we normally play like an arcade stick like this, right? This concept is known as pianoing, right? We sort of like play like an arcade stick, like it's like a rhythmic based like piano type of like game. ABC, ABC minor, all that stuff, right? That's what like I feel the concept of like you know, an arcade stick like is, and that's how we normally figure ourselves to play. But for certain types of games, pianoing or like just like laying your fingers like down like this is not really like going to cut it, right? So another alternative, especially for the Tekken community, is called the crab claw. So think of it like your hand as like the one of those like the claws, right? Think like the fucking the Toy Story like machine grip that comes down on like those little like space chibis, right? That's what you really have to like do with your like your hand, and you essentially like do like this, right? This is what's called like crab claw, right? And this is a lot used in like Hori like fight pads where it's like a controller and a fight stick, right? But you sort of like lose something in exchange for more like proficiency like in your like inputs and stuff like that. Because the nastiest part about like playing like a fight stick, especially like if you like grind your hands on a fight stick, you sort of have like this like dead skin, right, that like rides up on like the back end of your wrist like this, like how Arslan Ash was doing it. I always have a lot of times whenever I play like an arcade stick and like my palms somehow like, not my palms are sweaty, but like there would be like occasionally some dirt on like the glass of an arcade stick, and you would always all the time like have to wipe it off with like a solution or some shit, because that's rough like dead skin rubbed off on like in the arcade stick, right? And so to avoid like that messy mishap, you do like crab claw, and with crab claw you could essentially like hone your fingers like this, and you would be ready for all of like these types of like buttons. You're not exactly touching like the surface of the arcade stick, but you are pressing like the buttons like directly instead of just like hovering or like sliding over, because sometimes, you know, hovering or sliding over can give like is a lot less accurate than like crab claw, where you're directly at the buttons. You are mapping your fingers mentally to the buttons. So a lot of times you would play like this and then move with this, but not like directly like touching the screen. I have not like mastered that skill. My playstyle is like my playstyle, but for Pakistanis with Arslan Ash and everybody else there, this is very essential, and that's how like they become like super good, because, you know, crab claw is like their way to go. It's their main go-to controller schematic in their head.
So then I adopted this playstyle.
After Arslan mentioned his wrists, I started to notice that the edge of some of these cabinets had rubbed off exactly where you would place.
Yeah, so you would see like all this like stuff. That's like a lot of like players just like rubbing their hands on like the arcade stick. That's like some fucking grime and shit like that. That's like some wear and tear.
Your wrist. Also, the arcade buttons were spaced much further apart than the typical arcade layouts you see elsewhere.
Yep.
These wooden cabinets are unique because they were designed and built by the locals.
जाहिर सी बात है, बंडाई ने हमको यहाँ आर्केड वगैरह कुछ चीज़ कैबिनेट्स वगैरह तो भेज नहीं सकता, तो हमने खुद अपनी मदद आपके तहत इसको डिज़ाइन किया और इसको बनाया और मार्केट में लेके आए। तो हमारे लड़कों के लिए ये भी एक नई चीज़ थी तब कि दो साइड पे खेलना, और इससे एक तो गेम भी न्यूट्रल हो गई थी, कोई किसी के हाथ या बटन वगैरह नहीं देख सकता था, तो इससे लोगों को भी फ़ायदा हुआ, लोगों की प्रैक्टिस अच्छी हुई। तो हमने कोशिश की कि अच्छे से अच्छा मटेरियल लगाएं इसके ऊपर और इसको रनिंग में लेके आएं।
This guy, he really helped us make those cabinets.
Yeah.
The crash cabinets, and then we bought it from him, and then we put them in menus. He's pretty good at the woodwork and stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's the founder of the crash body in Pakistan.
Okay, wow.
This is the Etra.
Yeah, so you could think of like these like arcade cabinets in like Pakistan as like poverty arcade sticks. They're all just like made out of like wood, and they just like supply power into those shits, right? It's really phenomenal that like, because, you know, arcade cabinets are like, you know, mostly like metal and like I don't know what the metal, of course there's like circuitry, wiring, and like boarding and all that stuff, but, you know, those were like just like imports, right? And they have like a fascinating explanation as to like how they make like those arcade cabinets, you know, really work, as well as like controllers.
A shopping center where they build arcade cabinets and sell them. You can also find imported games and accessories here, but what caught my eye were all the scraps from old gaming machines. Because gaming equipment is expensive and scarce, repair becomes a necessity. But without official repair centers, it's difficult to source the parts. Third-party repair centers like Gaming Tech Pakistan rely on scavenging parts from broken equipment to fix consoles, arcade boards, or controllers.
If you come here, he's probably gonna have a board for King of Fighters 95.
King of Fighters 95.
Just come here, you tell them that this is the retro thing that I need fixed. These are your guys.
This resourcefulness has made gaming possible for as many people as possible. If a cabinet needs to support a 6-button game, drill some more holes. If a game doesn't need all the buttons, put them in an arcade stick.
Yep, that's really like some like local shit. You basically become like scavengers, right? That's really like a pleasant like thing to like hear, right? Because like the video talked about, consoles and arcade cabinets, any like gaming like luxury, any game is like a luxury merchandise. And it becomes like super expensive, especially over at like Pakistan, right? So they just have to make do with like old circuitry, old boards, right? So they just have to like import them over to like some of their like arcade cabinets, and that's how they get that shit to work, right? It's really cool just to like hear about that.
बहुत मुश्किल है इन चीज़ों की, खास तौर पे ये जो पार्ट्स हैं ये जब वहाँ से इधर आते हैं तो वो जितनी कीमत का होता है उससे डबल कीमत में पहुँच जाता है. आधे से तकरीबन 70% लोग तो ऐसे हैं जिनके पास इक्विपमेंट ही नहीं है.
Don't even have the proper gear
पे compete करने के लिए.
Yeah, right.
तो वो देसी यहाँ पे जो भी चीज़ मिलती है उसका बना के उस पे खेलते हैं.
They play with whatever's available.
उनका शौक देखें आप कि वो उनको कुछ सस्ती चीज़ भी कोई हल्की चीज़ भी मिल जाए तो वो उसके ऊपर भी खेलना शुरू कर देते हैं.
Yeah, right. And you like play on these like fucking, these styrofoam ass like arcade sticks that are made of like wooden like glue. They're like made out of like duct tape and hope or some shit, If they can like manage a way to like use like old parts or like old gear to make like their arcade sticks or arcade cabinets to work, that's what Pakistanis are going to do. That's some cool shit.
शौक का तो कोई हिसाब नहीं लगा सकता, कोई जिसका जो शौक है उसी हिसाब से वो करता है.
But gear alone doesn't make people good at a game. While Zaman makes and repairs arcade sticks, he also runs Maniac's Gaming Hub, a meeting place for the fighting game community and a training ground for the best players in the country. There's a wall signed by FGC people passing by, and a welcome message still there from when Nee came to visit.
Fuck, really? Of course,
and
Nee.
a welcome message.
Welcome to Pakistan legend Jai Ming Bay.
Still there from when Nee came to visit.
Wow.
It's a place to practice, but also a place to hold tournaments and exhibitions.
ये जो इवेंट
That's crazy.
करवाई है ताकि लोगों को पता लगे कि ये 1 मंथ की लीग है.
Oh, and that's Khan. That's Khan. A lot of people might be familiar with him because he is the second runner-up at like this. Well, it's going to be 2023 soon. But last year's Tekken 7 Evo, he was the runner-up. He was second place, and he lost to Knees Fang. He was the one playing Geese Howard. He's a Geese Howard main.
ताकि लोगों को पता लगे कि ये 1 मंथ की लीग है, बैक टू बैक 3 इवेंट्स होंगे इस लीग में. ये मैं बेसिकली इसलिए करवा रहा हूँ क्योंकि कम्युनिटी को पता लगे कि इवेंट कैसे होते हैं और बाहर जाकर उन्होंने कैसे खेलना है, कैसे प्रेशर हैंडल करना है. और एक तो प्लेयर स्पॉन्सर नहीं है जिनको पैसों की जरूरत है, वो एक तो प्राइज वगैरह हासिल करें, उनको पता लगे कि यार इस फील्ड में भी पैसा है, इसमें मेहनत करनी चाहिए और इवेंट होते हैं. और मैं जब ईवो गया था और मैंने वहाँ पे देखा कि लोग इस चीज़ को कितना
तो
मैंने फिर जाऊँगा. पहले भी इवेंट ऑर्गेनाइज कराता था और अब मैं अच्छे लेवल पे ऑर्गेनाइज करवाऊंगा इवेंट. तो काफ़ी लोगों ने मेरी इसमें हेल्प आउट की है और ये लीग इंशाल्लाह सक्सेसफुल है और आगे भी मैं इसका सीज़न 2 भी करवाऊंगा इंशाल्लाह बहुत जल्द.
ये कम्युनिटी जो है ना, ये अगर इकट्ठी रहेगी, एक जगह इकट्ठी रहेगी, एक दूसरे का साथ देगी तो इनको कोई भी नहीं हरा सकता. पाकिस्तान टेकन एक मौजा ही है, ठीक है. अरसलान की जो परफॉर्मेंस है उसने इसको यानी कि अकम्प्लिश किया. और अगर अरसलान ये परफॉर्मेंस ना देता वहाँ पे तो अभी भी हम स्ट्रगल ही कर रहे होते हैं. तो अब दुनिया की नज़रें हमारी टेकन के ऊपर हैं. इंशाल्लाह ताला लड़के मेहनत कर रहे हैं और आगे निकलने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. हर बंदा एक दूसरे से आगे सबकत लेना चाह रहा है.
But as much as I love Tekken and competitive fighting games, I thought calling it a miracle was a bit much. But then I went to Lahore City Square.
Then you went to Lahore.
Saw this.
And then you see Arslan Ash screaming his face off for like a sponsorship for LG phones. That's the power of like, you know, that's the power of a like a community or like a country that may not seem like a very powerful force, but just like watch out, right? This group can like turn heads or some shit like that. Right? Cuz like, you know, that's kind of like a thing with like fighting games. We always like go around we always have this like fun game of like, you know, for a fighting like game series like Soul Calibur or Tekken, which country would be the best like representation of them, right? Like Smash Brothers is, you know, home and bred in like in the United States. We're all Smash fans here, right, in America. But for like Europe, right, Soul Calibur is their mainstay, right, because of players like fucking players like Kayane and all that jazz, right? Mexico is KOF land because, you know, the history behind that is that when the Neo Geo was not performing well in the United States when it was like coming out, a lot of their parts were imported over to Brazil. So a lot of like Brazil heads are KOF champions there, right? And speaking of which, you know, right, this video kind of like reminds me of like how like Brazil became like a strong force in the KOF community, right? Because, you know, KOF is homebrewed, made in like Japan, right? And we always have this like conception, and we always have this like mental picture in our head that like if a fighting game is like Japanese, right, then the Japanese are really like the best at what they do because they homebred made this shit, right? But I always say like watch out, right? You know, watch out because like countries like South America, not Brazil, sorry, South America or Pakistan could be like a major force, right? Because we all knew that either like Korea and Japan were like the main forces for Tekken. But lo and behold, look at what we have with like Pakistan, right? You know, they just been like a poverty ass like groups of / community that didn't really know much about like gaming, but because of contenders like Khan, Bilal, Arslan Ash, right? They are a mainstay, and Arslan Ash being World Tekken champion for 2 EVOs straight has brought Pakistan to like, you know, the war zone, the main frontline force of Tekken, right? It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Yep.
Many thanks to the Pakistani FGC for helping me make this video and bearing with me every time I said a place reminded me of Dark Souls. This was Gerald from Corey Gaming. Thanks for.
Yeah, but it's really fun. Yeah, I love seeing. I love watching small like documentary videos like this, at least like for fighting games, because it's like, you know, fighting games is like my passion, right? I love playing these types of like video games, right? And so it's really cool of like, you know, just to hear like some of the histories behind this shit. Really, South America has a sick shmup scene? Really? That's OD. That's OD. Wow. One good shmup to come out of there is Softstar. Ooh. I definitely want to check that out. South America is a good like has like a good shmup scene. I definitely want to check that out. There you go. But yeah, South America also plays older fighting games. Yeah, me and eSkater always like talk about that a lot. That like yeah, a lot of like South America, we talked about this, that they're exceptionally well at KOF games because a lot of like the Neo Geo boards that was made by SNK were imported over to South America, and South Americans practically later been playing a lot of like those arcade cabinets and just like suffering through Rugal Bernstein and Geese Howard. Pakistani bros, yeah. The economic withdrawal to play like new stuff, but that means that they give the old and obscure games some love. Yeah, that's really awesome. That's really awesome though. It sucks because if you're not like a wealthy, like affluent, like country, like even here, like in the U.S., right? And also, you know, some other places, right? It could be pretty rough, especially like in like Pakistan, because like Pakistan and like Bangladesh, like that's where I'm from. They're third world countries. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of like money, right? To actually like have, right? And it sucks because, you know, more games are being pumped out, more high quality fidelity games are being pumped out, and some countries are just like keeping like their leg up, like their leg is still like in the game, but other countries are just like limping, like just trying to get to like that ready, like to that ready line, right? Just like trying to like keep up, and trying to like keep up is like, it kind of sucks. Or to like keep up, right? But it's such like a satisfying thing to hear that, like, you know, that like a country like Pakistan can be like a frontline force for video gaming. It's like astounding because, you know, as me as like a brown person, a brown like Islamic person, homies, right? We don't have a lot to like for gaming, right? We always have these like, you know, these expectations of like, you know, going to like get a job and like be a doctor or engineer or a lawyer, or like make something proud for like your family, or not really something that like we want to like do. So this is like a nice like breath of fresh air for like Pakistan or Bangladesh to be like into something that's not really like the basic bread shit that a lot of brown people are really like known for, all the like politics and like stuff like that. I mean, of course, getting into like politics is like, you know, if that's what you want to do, but right, like not really much like into gaming. And it's like, man, us brown kids don't really like the brown people that I've seen, right? And this is like coming from like my interactions with like my cousin's friends, or like, you know, or like, you know, my tutoring environment back when I was working at NJCU. Not a lot of brown kids are really like into gaming. It's just all about the grind of like being a nurse or a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. No one, I never seen like one like brown kid or a brown like person around like my age don't want to be inspired to be like a gamer or like a streamer, or like at least like play like fighting games and like stuff like that. It's like a wishy-washy wish that I like have, you know, but hey, you know, some things can like change.